All right then, folks, check this out. The G.I. Joe Classified Series Mania continues because I didn't receive just one pre-order this week. I received two. In addition to the Big Ben, which the video should be up and posted by now. Give that a watch if you've not done so already. We also have the G.I. Joe Classified Series Cobra Range Viper, which came at the exact same time. I wasn't kidding in my previous review when I said that the excitement amplifier at MoDXtra Games and Collectibles Towers is permanently fixed on 11 for G.I. Joe Classified Series releases right now. Now, the Range Viper is an interesting one. I wavered on whether I was going to pick this one up or not. I am not familiar with this Army Builder figure particularly. I didn't watch the DIC cartoons. I don't recall it appearing in any of the comic books that I used to read. That's not to say it hasn't. It just appeared after I kind of dropped off. So I've flipped and flopped a little bit, but then eventually a case of FOMO and also intrigue by the very unique design, as I've said before, around these parts. I'm into some of the more idiosyncratic looking ones. It led me to drop the cash and say, yeah, let's do it. Let's do the Range Viper. And here it is. So usual G.I. Joe Classified Series packaging of the moment with the black bordered motif, the digital render of the figure in an action shot, and then a really intimidating piece of artwork there in the little column down the right hand side, and then the little breakaway corner showing off all the extra accessories and added value goodies that are coming with it. There's those purple crystals once again. So there was someone who speculated, I think it may have been Flaffle, speculated that that's Energon crystals to acknowledge the G.I. Joe Transformers crossover-y vibe thing that's going on at the minute. It could very well be the case. But there you go, there's the front cover. And then on the back, Range Viper is number 76 in the line, comes in at around 6.3 inches tall with the little measuring stick on the side and the digital render there. Showing off yet more of, not more, showing off the same accessories that are showing off on the front in more detail, is what I meant to say. And then a few little breakaway boxes highlighting some key features like the paint application of the Cobra logo on the shoulder and the brain helmet sculpt there, which is really, really quite gross but interesting. All the legal bollocks and malarkey, and then no data card across the bottom here. What's going on? What's going on, Hasbro? G.I. Joe Classified Series T, what am I to do without a data card? Don't panic, there's one here on the side, but it's almost too small for a normal human being to see. So I'm going to get my glasses and hold it close to my face for a second. All right, then if you squint and turn your head sideways, you can see there's they've got a little red blob inside a red shield there. Then we've got a red stripe inside a red shield there. Then what looks like a red eyeball in a red shield there. And then, oh, it's the Peeping Tom telescope. I could definitely make that one out. So, yeah, good job, Hasbro. That's some good data card work there. Then on the other side, just a bigger version of the artwork that's displayed on the front. That's a really cool picture, isn't it? I like the lighting effect of the red glowing light hitting the character and the weaponry. That's nice. So yeah, there we go. There's the box. Let's get this bad boy open. So I'll pop the tape at the bottom. We've got the weapons locker, as per usual of late, number 76, and then the Range Viper in the cardboard frame. There we go, just snipped the string there off the cardboard frame. But let's get started with the gear. So we'll open up the locker. We've got one bag of goodies, and of course, there it is. The paperwork. Okay, tear the top of the baggie like a bag of crisps. There we go. Tip all the goodies out. That empty? Yeah, it feels to be. All right, well, the backpack's being held in a cardboard frame there as well, so I'll check that out in a minute. And then we got a big gun, a little pistol, like a grenade launchery type thing. That looks interesting with a spinning bullet chamber or grenade chamber, cartridge chamber. Big axe thing, which would have looked, Snowjob could have done with one of them, like a little ice axe thing. A kind of sai. Is that a sai? Is that the one that Raphael used to carry? And then a bullet belt. So lots of goodies. Oh, and the neckerchief. Don't forget the neckerchief there. And then the figure itself in here. All right, there we are then, folks. So check this angry bad boy out. Doesn't he look a bit grumpy? But there's the Range Viper with all his included goodies. Is it a he or is it an it? I should check this. I'm going to do a bit of Googling and maybe go back and read some back issues or something, see if I can get myself a little bit more familiar with what the Range Viper's all about. But in the meantime, I'm going to go away and have some man-child playtime. I'm going to pose him up, take some photos, do some displays, just get real good hands-on, get a good feel for the figure, and I'll be back in a couple of days to share some review thoughts. So that's the unboxing done. If you'd like to stick around and know more about the Range Viper, I'll give you a good, thorough overview, or Future Chris is going to give you a good, thorough overview in 3, 2, 1. Right, here we are then, folks. It's been a couple of days now since I recorded the unboxing section of the video that you have just watched. I've been good and hands-on with this bad boy, got plenty of man-child playtime hours clocked in so that I can come back and now share some review thoughts with you. Fine MoDXtra games and collectibles viewing community, folks. But just in case there's anybody out there who's new around these parts, just to let you know that there is now going to be a further 3 sections to this video in which I review the figure. These 3 sections I call the 3 A's. The first A is the aesthetic. There's going to be a section talking about how the Range Viper looks. Let's get into sculpting, let's get into textures, let's get into paint applications. What is the visual experience of this bad boy like? Then into the second A, which is articulation. So let's take a look at how he moves, how he poses, what's the world of possibility in that space there. So if you're a shelf displayer, if you're a photographer, what can you get done with it? And then finally, the third A is accessories and added value. What goodies have Hasbro chucked in with our Range Viper buddy here to enhance our play experience, to enhance our display experience, and just really give us our money's worth. And with all that said and done, it is my hope that if you're thinking about picking up a Range Viper of your own, my thoughts that I'll be sharing today will help you make the decision. So let's get into it and let's kick off with the aesthetic section. And I mean, holy shit, will you just look at this guy? What a balmy figure. But I'm kind of a little bit in love with the Range Viper. Now, it's not a character I'm particularly familiar with. You know, I don't know the lore of Range Vipers. I'm not particularly familiar with the DIC, the Dick, cartoon series, which I believe the Range Viper was a character in. And when I first saw the digital renders, I was skeptical. I'll be honest, I was skeptical. But then this kind of growing sense of love towards the more idiosyncratic characters, you know, the regular viewers around these parts will have heard me talk about this before, led me to drop a pre-order on it, and now I've got it in hand. I'm so pleased that I did, because the aesthetic visual experience of this guy is just really awesome, especially if, like me, you're into the more wacky, goofy characters in G.I. Joe. Although, that said, that's some menacing stuff going on there, isn't it, in the head sculpt? It's definitely, I'd refer to it as a goofy character from the DIC cartoons, but the G.I. Joe classified interpretation is amazing. Let's take a closer look at this head sculpt, shall we? So apologies for my lack of character knowledge from comic book lore or from cartoon lore, but I'm pretty confident the Range Viper is a human character in gear. The inclusion of the neckerchief and the muscular shape of the arms and torso is indicating to me that this is a real person. So this is clearly a helmet that is being worn here by the Range Viper, and this skull sculpted ballistic mask thing is really, really cool. I thought it looked a bit dumb, a bit daft when I saw the digital renders, but in hand it is suitably menacing and dark and intimidating. The quality of the sculpt is obviously adding to that. It's very clearly this kind of bony skull thing that we've got going on here. These little touches of paint applications in the recesses and the gaps, so around the jaw, the nose, and around the outside of the eyes, are giving it some lift and really enhancing that dark, menacing skull look thing. Of course, the red eyes, the glowing red eyes, are really well put together. They look great. They've got this lovely kind of reflective glow to them in under these lamps right now, just making him look like a right mean ass dude. The Range Viper is not someone you want to encounter in the dead of night in an area of conflict, for sure. I would shit my pants. There's other additional sculpted details. So we've got these little earpieces there with the vents sculpted in, this little bit across the bottom of the jaw. And then obviously we've got this kind of external brain thing going on, which is really well sculpted. Although what I will say is that the plastic look of the sculpted brain is a bit disappointing. That absolutely could have done with a little touch of a wash just to darken it up and make it look a little bit placky. So the sculpt is great, really happy with the sculpt. And, you know, when you're looking at him from profile, you don't really notice it, but when you've got him sort of turned to the side there, it just looks a bit plasticky, but no, it's fine. You know, it is what it is. Turning his head there towards the camera actually sort of reminded me a bit Terminator, exoskeleton Terminator, isn't it, in tone? So that head sculpt, obviously a big part of the character's personality, a big part of the sort of narrative storytelling piece that the design team over at G.I. Joe Classified have structured the figure about, and it's definitely a key visual element, but there's lots of other great stuff going on as well. You can see the musculature in the arms, in the shoulders, in the torso there, really well sculpted, just up to the usual G.I. Joe Classified series standard. We've then got his tactical vest on here. It's got two colours in it, the black and the brown. So that extra bit of paint application is just giving it a little bit more lift, a little bit more shelf presence, well sculpted, the straps, the sculpting in the vest itself, and these little kind of grenade bullet things for his grenade launcher across the shoulder there, all really nicely sculpted. The paint applications on the straps at the front here are a little loosey-goosey, a little rough around the edges, but you only really notice it if you're a YouTube action figure reviewer who's taken a really close look at the figure in preparation for doing a review. Got another secondary belt here, again well sculpted, but could do with a little paint application on the buckle or something just to give it a little bit more shelf presence. That's probably, in terms of my G.I. Joe Classified wish list right now, that's probably one of the main ones on the list, that these extra bits like belts and backpacks, I've talked a lot about backpacks, just an extra little bit of paint application on those would just really send it over the top for me in terms of visual experience. Got the usual G.I. Joe Classified textured trousers, nice fabric texture there again, giving it some character, some personality, and then some paint applications on the knee pads and on the boots as well, just again to give it some framing, some life. I like these little smooshed up, kind of bunched up section of the trousers there as they're tucked into the boot. That's always a nice little touch. Well sculpted gloves, the thigh holsters and the thigh pouches, again with extra colours, grey and blue on them to give it some lift, to give it some shelf presence. So yeah, all really lovely in terms of the sculpting and the texture and the depth to the character for sure. The colour scheme's good as well. I tend to feel like the G.I. Joe Classified design team have got a good eye for colour. They frame their figures well. I like the symmetry in the design. So you've got the kind of grey boots, the grey gloves with the black and blue main kind of core uniform piece going on, then this little splash of brown in the centre to just really break it up and add an extra dimension, something else to the colour palette there, which is really nice. Looks great in amongst the Alley Vipers and the Crimson Vipers, you know, all this mix mash of crazy, just a rainbow assault of colours on your display there, and the Range Viper fits in really well with that, but also got a nice little bit of kind of uniformal balance against your Cobra Troopers, your Cobra officers, your Vipers, your main line Vipers and stuff. So it kind of works in both sides of the display approach there, whatever you're going for, whether you're going for a bright assault of colours or whether you want something more uniformal. The Range Viper will suit either, fam. I'm a bit more mix mash in approach, works for me, but if you want to get it in amongst the rank and file, it'll work for you too, I think. So overall, yeah, it's a double thumbs up on the Range Viper. I've been really happy with the visual experience, with the aesthetic qualities of this figure. It's photographed well, it's displayed well, it works in all sorts of different types of displays and photographs that I've been trying to do. It's interesting, it's got a brighter colour scheme, but also blends nicely with the more uniformal colours. It's just ticking all the boxes for any type of G.I. Joe Classified series collector. So whatever you're trying to do, whatever your passion is around collecting the line, the Range Viper kind of ticks all the boxes. I was concerned, as I mentioned before, that my absence of association with the character from the cartoon lore was going to affect my enjoyment of it. But no, I've been playing with the Range Viper a lot since it came last week, and I mean a lot, and I'd possibly argue a little bit more than Big Ben, which was my other recent arrival. So yeah, absolutely MoDXtra Games and Collectibles recommends from an aesthetic point of view. 2 thumbs up on this one. I've really enjoyed the Range Viper from that point of view. Okay, well, there's the aesthetic. Let's now talk a bit about articulation. So we're looking at the standard G.I. Joe Classified Series articulation scheme with this figure. If you've had a G.I. Joe Classified Series fig in hand, then the Range Viper's not going to be bringing any surprises. But just in case you've never touched a G.I. Joe Classified Series figure before, I'll give you a quick rundown and then just point out a few little kind of unique points that I've noticed with regards to this figure in particular. So starting here above the shoulders with the head then, we've got the ball at the bottom of the neck, ball at the top of the neck, got full 360 X-ist all the way round, really good down, got tilts and swivelly stuff going on. What I have noticed though is that we haven't got a great up. The up's not too fantastic, which I think is because of the way the helmet's been sculpted. It's preventing that little bit of extra motion upwards. If this little blue section at the back there had a cutaway, it might have been a little bit better. Then into the shoulders, we've got the butterfly joint there, giving a nice bit of shuffle back and forward. Then the hinge, it's giving you the classic T-shape with your figures there, all the way around as well on the swivel point. Swivel here at the top of the bicep and tricep. Pinless double elbow, which is bringing you up to there. Standard G.I. Joe Classified Series pinned in hands, and then on the right hand, we've got the forward and back hinge in the hand there. And like with most G.I. Joe Classified Series figs, we've got a hinge up and down on the left hand. There is an ab crunch cut across the chest there, but obviously the ballistic vest is restricting that somewhat, so you've not got a great forward and back. In fact, you can see there I'm doing that mostly from the hip ball rather than from the crunch in there because of the ballistic vest. But speaking about the articulation here at the waist, you can see we've got some swivel and some movement in there, giving you some options. Standard G.I. Joe Classified drop-down joint in the groin. I mean, these are reuse legs. We've seen this a bazillion times at this point. Good forward. All right, back. And then the full Russian ballet splits there to about that point. Swivel here at the top of the thigh. Pinless double knee getting you up to that point there. Swivel at the top of the boot. And then hinge and rocker in the ankle. So as you can see, the Range Viper is articulated up to the usual G.I. Joe Classified Series standard, and therefore the second day is going to be a big old thumbs up as well. I've said it before, I'll say it again, it's getting repetitive here on the channel. I love the G.I. Joe Classified Series articulation scheme. I think it gives you a wide range of possibilities with your display posing, your photography posing, your diorama displays and how you want to put your figures in. I enjoy playing around with these figs a great deal, trying to find interesting ways of putting them into some action, into some dynamic kind of movement style poses. I'm not great at it, but, you know, it's possible to do, and I think, yeah, what else is there to say? It's just a thumbs up. The articulation is top notch. If you've experienced G.I. Joe Classified Series before, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, so I can highly recommend on that front. All right, let's get into the goodies now, then. Let's talk about the accessories, shall we? Okay, so kicking off with the accessories, I'm just going to get started with this little neckerchief piece. We've seen this before. This was on the other kind of mainline Viper figure as well. Nicely sculpted, got some texture and shape to it there to make it look like a neckerchief piece. It's a soft, rubbery, plasticky thing with this pincer gap at the back, so you can just slide it onto the neck of your Viper. Like so, there we go, round his neck. That's, fine. It's nice. Adds a little bit further character and personality, and was one of the elements of the figure that I mentioned before. Supports my theory that Range Vipers are people, not robots. And then we've got this bullet belt bandolier piece, just again, soft rubbery plastic with a black strap line painted in and kind of brassy, bullety colours on the bullets. That's fine. And again, just another extra visual element that adds to the storytelling. Just slide it on, just up and over the head like so, and drape it across the shoulder. Yeah, so just a bullet bandolier, just a nice little touch, Then into the weaponry, and we've got this little kind of 9mm pistol thing, little snub pistol. As is often the case, just a single sculpted piece of black plastic there. Got the little magazine, the extra long magazine sticking out. Trigger, you can see the sculpted details in the chamber. That's all fine. It's quite a solid piece as well. So that's good to see. And that can be stored on the figure just by slipping it into the holster there. A little bit loose, this one. Normally they're a bit tighter, but I haven't found a problem with it falling out or anything. Then what I would consider the main weapon, this sort of handled, this machine gunny thing with a grip and a sight on it. Again, single piece of molded plastic, got all the sculpted details in there to bring it to life. Same story really with the weapons. Could it do with a bit of a wash? Could it do with a second colour? Yes. Does it? No. Is it a problem? Nah, it looks all right. This one's not too bad, actually. It's not quite as flimsy and wobbly as some of the weapons that we've recently experienced with G.I. Joe Classified series, although it's still got a little bit of give and movement, but not as rough around the edges as some of the others that we have seen of late. That then also comes with this bullet. So Falcon on the Big Ben review told me that this is a bullet drum. So there you go. I will now, from this point forward, make sure I use the right terminology. But yeah, there's the bullet drum. It's got the little peg there to fit it into the gun. You've obviously got the bullet feeder, the belt being fed into the weapon itself. No fuss there. Good, solid fit. Just need to make sure you put the bullets in first before you peg it in at the bottom. So there's the Range Viper's gun. Then some hand-to-hand small arms, beginning with this sort of side dagger type thing here. This is okay. Again, it's sculpted in the handle. Could it have done with a metallic paint job on the blade? Yes, it could have. Absolutely. It's a bit bland. It's definitely that wobbly, shaky kind of plastic that we've been seeing from G.I. Joe Classified of late, and it's lacking a bit of texture and detail in the blade, if I'm being perfectly honest. So that's a little bit of a letdown, but, it's fine. I've got plenty of G.I. Joe Classified knives to trade it out with. But again, this can be stored on the figure. You can see here on the belt around the back, there's a little bracket, little loop bracket, and you can slide it in like so. It fits fine. It's a little bit awkward. It gets in the way of the articulation sometimes, but yeah, you've got somewhere to pop it on the fig just there. Then we have this little kind of, it looks like a kind of ice picky axe type thing, doesn't it? Again, it's all right. The blade looks a bit flat and bland to me, and then down the bottom here looks a bit flat and bland as well. There's a bit of sculpting in the middle of it, but again, it's all right. I've not found myself using it all that much. That does have a place for storage, but I'll come to that in just a sec when I when I take a look at the backpack. And while I'm talking about weapons that can be stored on the backpack, we've also got the grenade launcher that I mentioned earlier. Again, single molded piece of plastic made out of this weird placky, we've got lots of pliability in there, which is not too great. But the details are sculpted in, the chamber, the grenade chamber there spins on the spot. It's all right. It's fine. Looks pretty good in hand. I like this front section here. The way that's sculpted looks interesting, and the sight on the top. But yeah, if you want to make your Range Viper look even more menacing, just tool him up with a grenade launcher. That's way more menacing than any other weapon I can think of. And then the backpack, really into the backpack, very pleased with this. I can only conclude that Lenny and the design team over at G.I. Joe Classified have been watching my videos, because look at the paint applications and the extra details on this bad boy. Loving it. So we've got this kind of big battery thing here at the top, big blue battery. Or is that a gas injector? We'll talk about the pipe in a minute, but then we've got this little tube coming off it. Radio sculpted in at the side there, pouches, pockets, extra bullets, loads of sculpted detail. But the bullets have been painted. The blue drum battery gas canister thing's been painted, and we've got these little panels here. There's a little red light in the center, and this little kind of graph chart thing there. Very pleased with that. The individual over at G.I. Joe Classified series who busts a gut to sculpt us great backpacks has been done justice by the folks who paint these things up as well. Now this has got some extra storage space on it too for the remaining weapons. So you can see there's this chamber in the back at the base of the backpack there, which can attach the grenade launcher like so, using the sight. And then there's a little sticky outy peg at the side here, which is perfectly sized for the gap in the blade on his axe, and that fits on like that. Although I found that a bit annoying. It's not quite, it could do with just being a little tiny touch taller, the peg, because it falls off quite a lot. I knock it off quite often, but it's there nonetheless. And then of course you'll notice that it fits onto the back with a peg. See, the Range Viper's got a peg hole there. Now this is an interesting little element, because I didn't mention it earlier, but there's a hole at the back of the helmet as well. So you peg in the backpack like so, and then, oh, there you go, just knock the axe off, and then you peg in this tube in the back of his helmet there, like so as well. So I don't know if there's like a bit of a, like a Bane Venom type thing going on there, or whether that's a big battery pack to power some sort of, hood in the mask piece. I don't know what the script is there, what the story is around that. So if anyone does know the lore, then please do fill me in. But it's a nice touch. Again, gives it some character, some personality, nice narrative touch there. The peg on the backpack's quite long, actually, and the channel in the peg hole isn't quite deep enough to take it all the way to be flush. Now, I get why they've done that. They've done that to make sure that there's enough clearance here at the back for where the grenade launcher has been attached. But it does bother me when I've not got the grenade launcher on. It looks like the peg sticks out really far. Maybe you can see it better from that side. Or I don't know. I've kind of disguised it with the bandolier and all that. But yeah, it's a minor problem, really. Minor problem. I really love that backpack. I think they've done a great job. Well done, G.I. Joe Classified team. So that is a massive thumbs up from me, 2 thumbs up. I think that's a pretty banging accessory selection there. The backpack's great, the extra visual elements like the neckerchief and the bandolier, loads of weapon choices. Yes, they're made out of the floppy plastic thing that's been going on with the weapons of late with G.I. Joe Classified series, but they look good, they're well in line with the character, they add to your storytelling experience and your play experience, and I just think the backpack is really well designed. That reminds me of kind of earlier G.I. Joe Classified where it all sort of integrated like that. So enjoying the accessory selection a great deal, and it's given me opportunity to do a few different photographs with the Range Viper getting up to all sorts of different things. So yes, absolutely, thumbs up 1, thumbs up 2, recommend it on the accessories front. All right, quick figure comparison time then, folks. And here's the Range Viper with a standard Viper and a Crimson Guard, just to demonstrate what I was saying a little bit earlier on about how there's a kind of uniformity where they blend well together. You can see that this is the rank and file, but they're unique enough and got their own personality enough that they have their own shelf presence too. So you've got all these kind of little motifs in the designs that tie them together, and they really kind of work. But they're distinctive enough that they have their own place on the shelves and their own personality, which I think is really quite nice and sweet. Here's the Range Viper with Copperhead, who I've kind of thrown in because he's a recent addition to the Cobra side of the shelf, but also because, again, I think it illustrates that kind of, that tone of, there's a cohesive element to some of these characters in the Cobra side of the display, but with their own unique personality. And I think Copperhead next to the Range Viper illustrates that even further than the kind of army builder troops that I showed earlier. Here's the Range Viper with Big Ben. These two both arrived. They were delivered at the same time. The Big Ben review is already posted on the channel as well, so if you're not seeing that already, go and take a look. But I always like to grab someone from the opposing side of the display. So here's a Joe to go with the Range Viper in this figure comparison as well. Okay then, folks, so here is the Range Viper going around on the turntable in the pose that I sort of settled on last night when I finished getting my man-child playtime in with the character. I don't think there's a great deal I need to add, really, is there, on top of the thoughts that I've shared through the video. I am clearly very happy with the figure and somewhat surprised by how much I like it. I think this is really interesting that despite my absence of nostalgic connection to the Range Viper, which I feel a strong connection to a number of characters that I used to read in the Action Force comics. I used to have the old Action Force versions of the G.I. Joe figures in my youth. Young Chris, childhood Chris, has nothing to say or think about the Range Viper, and yet I'm on board. I loved it. I've clocked in a fair few man-child playtime hours with this guy and enjoyed every minute of it. I'm actually really happy with it. Which is interesting and dangerous, potentially very dangerous, because if I end up making more Curiosity FOMO purchases with characters that I don't feel that connection to or know much about in terms of comic book and or cartoon lore, then, well, let's just say Hasbro will end up bankrupting me, so let's see. But, it's making me reappraise things like the upcoming Shadow Tracker for sure. Anyway, let's stop rambling on. So thank you so very much, folks, for coming along and watching my review today. I know there's so many other channels you could be watching to get your action figure reviews. So I'm absolutely blessed to have you here with me today, and thank you so much for choosing my vid to learn more about the Range Viper. Please, if you've appreciated and found this useful today, consider joining the channel, or if you're not that loaded but you want to throw a little bit in the pot to say thank you, then take a look at the super thanks, or at the very least drop down into the comments below and use my Entertainment Earth affiliate link to give me a wee little kickback. All money raised through these income streams can help me diversify the range of stuff I can review on the channel by importing stuff, by affording figures that I wouldn't normally afford. So if you want to see a wider selection of stuff here on the channel, then drop a bit in the pot to help out. Otherwise, press all the buttons, give us a like, hit subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and yeah, I suppose see, I've done it again. I can't time these little outros very well, can I? Because then he always ends up with his back to you. Although that's not necessarily a bad thing, because that is an awesome backpack. So yeah, let's just wrap it up there. Thanks so very much for hanging around. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you around these parts again sometime soon. See you later, folks.